When you see them pulling away, distancing themselves, or maybe even starting to reject you, it's painful, confusing, and feels like a punch to the gut. It's like watching a door slowly close, and without the right tools, you're left helplessly watching the gap disappear. The natural response is to try and fix things quickly, or worse, react emotionally. But here's the reality. How you handle this moment has the power to shape not just your relationship, but your personal growth and sense of self-respect. In these moments, we often do things that make them see us in the worst light, needy, desperate, and emotionally unstable. Actions born out of panic rarely make things better. In fact, they usually make things worse. That's why it's so important to avoid these 10 mistakes that we are about to break down for you. Each one can sabotage not only your chances of reconnecting with them, but also your self-worth and emotional balance. Imagine this. You're standing on a frozen lake. The person you care about is moving toward the other side. Your instinct is to run after them, but every frantic step cracks the ice beneath you. You're not closing the distance. You're sinking deeper into a cold abyss of regret and self-doubt. The only way to survive is to stop, gather yourself, and move with calculated care, or even let them walk away. As the legend Rumi once said, "Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you, and do not worry that your life is turning upside down. How do you know that the side you are used to is better than the one to come?" So this is what you need to understand. Understand, folks, in this moment of heat and emotional turmoil, you might feel compelled to act, thinking that your actions will make a difference, thinking that chasing, explaining, or overcompensating will fix the situation. But here's the harsh truth. The only difference those actions will make is pain, and even more pain. It's like trying to put out a fire by throwing fuel on it. Reacting without thought is a surefire way to amplify the heartbreak, not repair it. As Epictetus wisely said, it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. How you choose to perceive and respond to this moment will define whether you grow stronger or spiral into regret. And hey, if you've already been through this moment, if you've already taken those desperate steps, made those impulsive mistakes, and felt the sting of regret, this lesson is for you too. Because the truth is, growth doesn't stop after the mistake. In fact, some of the most valuable lessons come from reflecting on what went wrong and choosing to do better next time. As Maya Angelou said, "Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better." This is your opportunity to learn, to shift your perspective, and to ensure that the next time you're faced with a challenge like this, you'll handle it with strength, wisdom, and dignity. So, if you're ready to learn how to handle these situations with strength, clarity, and wisdom, let's get into it. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss empowering content like this. And hey, before we dive deeper, make sure to hit that like button under this video. Why? Because not only does it show your support, but it also helps this video reach more people like you, people who are searching for clarity, guidance, and strength in moments like these. And remember, the best thing you can do right now is to help others by sharing lessons like this. So go ahead, press that like button, and let's spread this message together. Number 1. Never lose your calm and temper. Imagine you're standing in front of a dam holding back an immense reservoir of water. The structure is solid, but as cracks begin to form, pressure builds. If you let your emotions take control, hammering at those cracks with impulsive reactions and angry outbursts, you're not just breaking the dam, You're releasing a flood, washing away everything in its path. That's what happens when you lose your calm and temper. The flood doesn't just hurt the other person, it consumes you too. When someone distances themselves from you, it's easy to let emotions take over. You feel rejected, confused, and hurt. Your mind races, creating stories about why they're pulling away, and the urge to fix things often comes out as frustration or anger. But here's the truth. Losing your temper in these moments doesn't bring you closer to resolution. It drives a wedge even deeper. When someone is already stepping back, an angry outburst or emotionally charged reaction only confirms their decision to pull away. They may perceive you as unstable or overly reactive, making reconciliation seem even less appealing. Losing your temper often shifts the focus from the real issue to your behavior. Instead of addressing the underlying reasons for the distance, the conversation becomes about your reaction. You might end up apologizing for your anger rather than resolving the core issue. After the moment passes, guilt and regret set in. You may replay the scene in your mind, wondering why you let your emotions get the better of you. This self-criticism can take a toll on your confidence and self-worth. Anger begets anger. If you lash out, they might respond defensively or withdraw further. What could have been an opportunity to understand and reconnect turns into a full-blown conflict. Take a deep breath before responding to anything. When you feel anger bubbling up, count to 10. This pause creates space between your emotions and your actions, allowing you to regain control. Accept that it's okay to feel hurt, rejected, or confused. Emotions are natural, but they don't have to dictate your behavior. Say to yourself, I feel this, but I will not act on it impulsively. Shift your perspective. Instead of viewing their distance as a rejection, see it as an opportunity for reflection for both of you. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Shifting your perspective reduces the emotional charge. If you do need to communicate, keep your tone calm and your words deliberate. For example, instead of saying, "Why are you ignoring me?" you might say, "I've noticed some distance and want to understand how you're feeling when you're ready to talk." Repeat this to yourself when you feel emotions rising. I choose calm over chaos. This simple phrase reminds you to prioritize composure and self-control over reaction. Picture yourself as a captain steering a ship in a storm. The waves are crashing, the winds are howling, and the crew is panicking. If you lose your composure and start shouting orders chaotically or abandoning the wheel, the ship is doomed. But if you grip the helm, assess the situation, and calmly navigate through the storm, you give everyone, including yourself, a chance to weather it. In relationships, the same principle applies. You are the captain of your own emotions. Losing your temper in the face of turbulence only increases the chaos, but staying calm allows you to navigate through the uncertainty with clarity and purpose. As Viktor Frankl once said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Number 2, not respecting their space. Imagine standing in a greenhouse filled with delicate plants. You see one wilting, and your instinct is to water it more, feed it more, and hover over it, trying to nurse it back to life. But sometimes the problem isn't solved by doing more. Overwatering drowns the roots. Hovering blocks the sunlight. In your effort to fix it, you unknowingly make the situation worse. Relationships are no different. When someone starts pulling away, failing to respect their space is like smothering that delicate plant. Instead of healing the connection, you risk suffocating it entirely. When someone distances themselves, it's natural to feel uneasy. Questions flood your mind. Why are they pulling away? Did I do something wrong? What can I do to bring them back? Your instinct might be to close the gap immediately by texting, calling, or even confronting them. But this reaction, while rooted in care, often has the opposite effect. Instead of bringing them closer, your actions can push them further away, making them feel overwhelmed or pressured. Failing to respect their space can send several unintended messages. It can make you seem insecure, as if you're unable to cope with the uncertainty of the moment. It can make them feel trapped, as though their need for time or distance is being ignored. It might even lead them to question the balance in the relationship, wondering if their autonomy is being stifled. None of these outcomes foster the kind of connection you truly want. Now imagine this. You're holding a handful of sand. If you grip it tightly, trying to keep it all in your palm, the grains slip through your fingers. But if you relax your hold, letting it rest gently in your hand, the sand stays. The same principle applies when someone asks for space. The tighter you hold, the more they feel the need to escape. The gentler you are, the more likely they are to feel safe enough to stay. Respecting their space doesn't mean ignoring them or pretending you don't care. It means trusting them enough to take the time they need to process their thoughts and emotions. It's about understanding that relationships require breathing room to grow and flourish. Repeat this affirmation to yourself. I trust the process. Trust that the relationship can only thrive when both parties feel free to reflect, reset, and return on their own terms. Imagine you're building a bridge. If you rush, throwing planks together haphazardly, the structure won't hold. But if you take your time, laying each piece thoughtfully and securely, you create something that can withstand the weight of time and pressure. Respecting their space is like building that bridge. It requires patience, care, and a willingness to let the process unfold naturally. As Marcus Aurelius once said, accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. Respecting their space doesn't mean withdrawing your care or affection. It means allowing the connection to breathe without forcing it. It will be challenging, especially when your emotions are heightened. You might feel the urge to check in, to remind them of your presence, or to seek answers to your questions. But restraint is your greatest tool here. Every time you choose to honor their need for space, you're building a foundation of trust and respect. It's a silent message that says, I value you enough to let you have the room you need. And if you've already made the mistake of not respecting their space, don't worry. Growth begins when you recognize the error and commit to doing better. Reflect on what drove you to ignore their boundaries and focus on adjusting your approach moving forward. Remind yourself, the relationships worth keeping are the ones where both people feel safe to be themselves. Respecting their space is one of the greatest acts of love and care you can offer. So take a deep breath, repeat the affirmation, I trust the process, and watch how patience and respect can strengthen the bond between you. Number 3, don't ignore them in return. Avoid playing games. Imagine a game of tug-of-war. The other person suddenly lets go of the rope, and you're left holding it, confused and unbalanced. In your frustration, you consider letting go of the rope too. Ignoring them just as they're ignoring you. But what happens then? The connection between you snaps entirely, leaving both of you on opposite sides, further apart than ever. When someone distances themselves, it's tempting to respond by mirroring their behavior. They ignore your texts. You decide to ignore theirs. They stop calling. You make a point to do the same. It feels like you're taking back control or teaching them a lesson. But in reality, you're not taking control. You're losing it. Responding to distance with distance only creates a toxic cycle of silence, misunderstanding, and hurt. Ignoring someone in return isn't a strategy. It's a game, and it's one that nobody wins. When you resort to this approach, you're not fostering understanding or resolution. Instead, you're building walls where there could be bridges. Playing games like this makes the relationship a battlefield, where both parties become more focused on winning than reconnecting. Consider this. If a flame starts to flicker, you don't extinguish it to prove a point. You shelter it, nurture it, and give it the space to burn brighter again. Relationships are no different. If they're pulling away, responding with more distance doesn't protect the connection. It puts it in jeopardy. Ignoring them might feel like a way to regain power, but it ultimately weakens the trust and intimacy you've worked to build. Avoiding this mistake requires intentional action. Instead of reacting to their distance with silence or petty games, choose authenticity. If they're pulling away, don't chase, but don't close the door either. Send a calm, respectful message that communicates your willingness to talk when they're ready. For example, something as simple as, "I notice you've been needing some space, and I respect that. I'm here when you're ready to talk." This shows maturity and emotional stability rather than feeding into the cycle of avoidance. When you feel the urge to mirror their behavior, repeat this affirmation to yourself. I choose connection over competition. Imagine you're in a forest, and the person you care about is walking further into the trees. If you turn and walk in the opposite direction, how will either of you find your way back to each other? The only way to reconnect is to stand your ground, make your presence known, and let them return in their own time. Ignoring them in return only deepens the divide and leaves both of you lost. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This quote serves as a reminder that communication isn't about outmaneuvering someone. It's about creating space for understanding. Ignoring them doesn't open the door to dialogue. It closes it entirely. It's not easy to resist the temptation to play games when emotions are running high. It's natural to want to protect yourself by matching their behavior. But relationships aren't about who can care less or stay silent longer. They're about building trust and navigating challenges with integrity. Choosing authenticity over pettiness is a sign of strength, not weakness. If you've already made this mistake, if you've ignored them to play the same game they're playing, it's not too late to course correct. Reach out with sincerity and humility. Say something like, "I realize I may have responded to the distance in a way that wasn't helpful. I'd like to approach this differently and communicate openly when you're ready." This kind of honesty not only helps repair the dynamic, but also demonstrates your emotional growth. Remember this: playing games might feel satisfying in the short term, but it doesn't lead to the meaningful connections we all crave. When you resist the urge to ignore them in return, you're choosing the higher road, the one that values communication, trust, and respect over competition. So, the next time you're tempted to play games, take a deep breath, repeat the affirmation, "I choose connection over competition," and let your actions reflect your values. Number 4, don't sit in the dark, waiting for them. Picture this. You're in a room, the lights are off, and you're sitting in a chair staring at the door, waiting for it to open. Hours pass, and the silence grows louder. Your mind races with thoughts. What are they doing? When will they come back? What should I do? But the door doesn't budge. You've trapped yourself in that dark room, giving away your power, waiting for someone else to decide your next move. This is what it feels like when you sit in the dark waiting for someone who has distanced themselves. You put your life on hold, hoping they'll come back. And in the process, you forget to live. The longer you wait, the more you lose touch with yourself. Waiting becomes a cycle of obsession, checking your phone, replaying conversations, or creating scenarios in your head. It's like a prison you build brick by brick, and the key to freedom is in your own hands. Sitting in the dark does more than drain your energy. It diminishes your value. By waiting passively, you send a message that your happiness and worth depend entirely on them. You stop growing, stop thriving, and slowly you become a shadow of yourself. The truth is, people are drawn to those who are living fully, not waiting endlessly. Instead of waiting in the dark, turn on the light. Focus on yourself and the things that bring you joy and fulfillment. Dive into hobbies you've neglected. Spend time with friends who lift you up and pursue goals that excite you. Build a life that you love, one that doesn't hinge on whether they return or not. This doesn't mean you're giving up on them. It means you're choosing not to give up on yourself. Repeat this affirmation when you feel stuck in the dark. I will not wait. I will thrive. Let it be a reminder that your life is meant to be lived, not paused. Imagine a sunflower in a field, standing tall and bright. It doesn't shrink or stop growing just because the sun disappears behind the clouds. It knows the sun will shine again, and when it does, it will still be standing tall. Be like the sunflower. Keep growing, keep thriving, and let your light shine no matter who is watching. As the poet Rumi once said, "Don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form." Waiting in the dark robs you of the opportunity to discover the beauty and lesson in what's next. Whether they return or not, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled when you choose to live fully in the present. If you've already spent too much time waiting, it's okay. The moment you decide to step out of the dark and into the light is the moment you reclaim your power. Take one small step, whether it's pursuing a passion, calling a friend, or simply going for a walk, and let that momentum carry you forward. Your life is a journey, not a waiting room. The door might open, or it might not. But you can't spend your days staring at it. Live boldly, love yourself, and remind the world, and them, what makes you shine. Throw, "I will not wait, I will thrive," in the comments below if you're ready to turn the lights back on and live life to the fullest. Number 5. Don't explode in anger. Imagine holding a balloon in your hands. As frustration and hurt build, you blow more air into it, hoping somehow that releasing your anger will make things better. But instead, the balloon pops, leaving nothing but shreds and an unsettling silence. This is what happens when you let anger take over. In the heat of the moment, you believe that exploding will fix things or make them see your pain. Instead, it destroys the connection, leaving you both with nothing but regret. When someone distances themselves, it stirs up intense emotions, confusion, rejection, sadness. Anger often disguises itself as a protective shield, a way to mask vulnerability and assert control. But in truth, anger is like a fire in a dry forest. It burns fast, wide, and leaves destruction in its wake. Exploding in anger doesn't bring you closer to resolution. It pushes the person further away, often irreparably. When you lash out, the focus shifts from their actions to your reaction. Instead of addressing the issue, they might become defensive or withdraw even more. The words you say in anger, harsh accusations, blame, or ultimatums can't be unsaid. These outbursts leave scars on the relationship and on your own sense of self-respect. The moment the anger subsides, you're left questioning why you let it control you. Instead of giving in to anger, practice pausing. When emotions surge, take a deep breath, step back, and let the wave pass. Say to yourself, "This is temporary, but my words are permanent." Repeating this affirmation can ground you and remind you that staying calm preserves your dignity and the possibility of reconciliation. Imagine you're a tree in a storm. The wind howls, the branches bend, but the roots remain firm. You don't break because you've learned to withstand the storm without resisting it. In relationships, staying rooted in your composure during turbulent times is your greatest strength. Anger may feel powerful in the moment, but true power lies in restraint. As the Stoic philosopher Seneca said, "Anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it." This wisdom reminds us that anger doesn't solve problems, it creates new ones. The more you let anger dictate your actions, the further you stray from the person you want to be. It's not easy to stay calm when emotions are running high. It will test your patience and self-control. But these moments are opportunities for growth. Each time you resist the urge to explode, you're building emotional resilience and strengthening your ability to handle challenges with grace. If you've already given in to anger, don't beat yourself up. Take responsibility for your actions and use this as a lesson. Apologize sincerely if needed and commit to handling future conflicts differently. Growth isn't about never making mistakes. It's about learning from them and doing better. Remember, you're not the balloon waiting to pop. You're the steady tree weathering the storm. Repeat to yourself, "This is temporary, but my words are permanent." If you're ready to take control of your emotions and navigate challenges with strength, throw this affirmation in the comments below. Let it be a reminder that calmness, not anger, is the true path to resolution. Number 6. Don't blame yourself excessively. Imagine carrying a backpack full of stones. With every step, you add another one, believing that somehow this weight is yours to bear. Each stone represents a question or thought. What did I do wrong? Could I have prevented this? Am I not good enough? Before long, the backpack is so heavy you can't move forward. This is what it feels like to blame yourself excessively. When someone distances themselves, it weighs you down, immobilizing your growth and self-worth. It's natural to reflect on your role in the situation. Healthy self-reflection is essential for growth, but there's a fine line between taking responsibility and carrying unnecessary guilt. Blaming yourself excessively doesn't just hurt your self-esteem, it warps your perception of the relationship. You start to believe that their actions are entirely your fault, when in reality, their distance may have little to do with you. By shouldering all the blame, you place their feelings above your own, sending the message that their emotional needs are more valid than yours. This imbalance diminishes your value in the relationship and in your own eyes. Relationships are a two-way street, and while your actions play a role, so do theirs. It's crucial to understand that you can't control someone else's feelings, choices, or circumstances. Instead of drowning in self-blame, shift your focus to self-compassion. Remind yourself that no relationship is perfect and that both parties contribute to its dynamics. Ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" rather than, "What did I do wrong?" Growth comes from understanding, not self-criticism. Picture yourself standing at a fork in the road. One path is filled with the weight of guilt, leading to more hurt and stagnation. The other is a path of self-compassion, guiding you toward growth and healing. Choose the second path. Remind yourself, I am worthy, regardless of their actions. As the philosopher Lao Tzu once said, care about what other people think, and you will always be their prisoner. Stop imprisoning yourself with guilt over things you cannot control. Their distance is not a reflection of your worth. If you've already been blaming yourself excessively, it's time to take off the backpack, release the weight of guilt, and commit to treating yourself with kindness. Remember, your value doesn't depend on anyone else's actions. It's intrinsic to who you are. Throw "I am worthy," regardless of their actions, in the comments below if you're ready to let go of unnecessary blame and walk the path of self-compassion. Number 7. Don't post on social media to get their attention. Imagine you're throwing a stone into a calm lake, hoping the ripples will reach someone on the other side. But instead of getting their attention, the ripples fade before they ever make it. This is what posting on social media to get their attention feels like. A futile attempt to communicate indirectly when direct communication is what truly matters. When someone distances themselves, the urge to make them notice you can be overwhelming. Posting cryptic quotes, pictures that show how happy you are, or flaunting a night out with friends might seem like a way to spark jealousy or curiosity. But here's the truth. Social media isn't a bridge to their emotions. It's a stage. These posts often come across as performative and transparent. What actually happens when you post for their attention? Instead of drawing them closer, it often pushes them further away. They might see your posts as manipulative or insincere. And even if they respond, the interaction is built on games rather than genuine connection. Worse, you risk eroding your self-respect by placing so much energy into what is essentially a digital cry for attention. Instead of turning to social media, focus on communication that is authentic and grounded. If there's something you truly want to say, express it directly, calmly, and respectfully. And if they've asked for space, honor that, instead of trying to bypass it with posts designed to provoke a reaction. Picture a lighthouse standing tall on the shore. It doesn't chase the ships or signal frantically. It simply shines steadily, guiding those who seek its light. Be that lighthouse. Focus on yourself and your growth, and let your strength and calmness speak louder than any social media post ever could. As Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If you find yourself crafting posts to provoke a response, pause and ask yourself, is this action aligned with my growth and self-respect? If you've already made this mistake, forgive yourself. Recognize the lesson. Attention gained through games is fleeting, but connections built on authenticity are lasting. Repeat this affirmation. I am enough without validation from others. Throw it in the comments below if you're ready to let your actions, not your posts, reflect your true strength and confidence. Number 8. Don't neglect your own life. Imagine a garden filled with vibrant flowers. You've nurtured it, tended to it, and watched it grow. Now imagine abandoning it completely because you're too focused on one single flower that seems to be wilting. While you wait for it to bloom again, the rest of your garden begins to wither. This is what happens when you neglect your own life in the hopes of reconnecting with someone who has distanced themselves. When someone pulls away, it's easy to make them the center of your world. You pause your own goals, withdraw from your friends, and let your hobbies and passions fade into the background. You tell yourself that everything will resume once they come back. But here's the truth. Putting your life on hold doesn't bring them closer. It only diminishes your sense of self-worth and makes you less fulfilled in the process. Neglecting your own life sends the message to them and to yourself that your happiness is tied entirely to their presence. It's as if you're saying, "I'm nothing without you." This dependence can push them further away as it places undue pressure on the relationship and signals a lack of emotional independence. Instead of waiting for them to return, shift your focus inward. Reconnect with the things that bring you joy and fulfillment, whether it's your career, creative pursuits, fitness goals, or time spent with loved ones. Pursuing your passions not only builds your confidence, but also reminds you of your value outside the relationship. It shows that your world is full and meaningful, with or without their immediate attention. Imagine a tree standing tall and firm, its roots planted deep in the earth. Even when storms come, the tree doesn't wither. It thrives, growing stronger and more resilient. Be that tree. Nurture your roots by prioritizing your well-being and investing in your growth. As Rumi wisely said, "Don't be satisfied with stories, how things have gone with others. Unfold your own myth." This is your opportunity to focus on your journey, your story, and your growth. If you've already neglected your life, it's never too late to start again. Take one small step today, whether it's revisiting an old hobby, reaching out to a friend, or setting a new personal goal. Repeat this affirmation: "I grow stronger by living fully." Throw it in the comments below if you're ready to nurture your own life and reclaim your joy. Number 9. Don't involve others in the situation. Imagine spilling a handful of seeds into the wind, hoping they'll all land in one spot and grow. Instead, the wind scatters them far and wide, leaving you with no control over where they take root. This is what happens when you involve others in a personal situation. Your emotions and intentions get scattered, often leading to outcomes you didn't expect or want. When someone distances themselves, the temptation to seek validation or clarity from friends, family, or mutual acquaintances can feel overwhelming. You might want others to talk to them for you, dig for answers, or even take sides. But involving others in your relationship often causes more harm than good. Instead of creating understanding, it invites confusion, misinterpretation, and sometimes even gossip. Sharing personal matters with too many people risks eroding trust between you and the person who pulled away. It can make them feel betrayed, embarrassed, or cornered, pushing them further away instead of drawing them back. Relationships thrive on direct communication, and adding third parties into the mix dilutes the authenticity of the connection. Instead of seeking outside intervention, focus on addressing the issue directly with the person involved. If they've asked for space, honor it. If the time feels right, reach out calmly and with clarity, allowing the conversation to remain between the two of you. As Epictetus said, "To be trusted is a greater compliment than to be loved." By keeping the matter private, you demonstrate respect and maturity, which strengthens the foundation for future understanding. If you've already involved others, take a step back. Let them know you'll handle things personally moving forward. Repeat this affirmation: "I choose trust over interference." Throw it in the comments below if you're ready to honor the privacy and integrity of your relationships.